get into it. I've been looking forward to this. Um, Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We appreciate you devoting your time. We don't take it lightly. I would like to introduce Dr. Taffy, one of the co-founders and co-hosts of Zim Ladies Roundtable, and myself, Tino. And tonight is part 2 of sexual wellness, which is such a broad term. And we have Beaullah back. Beaullah is a therapist. And we are back today discussing more about sexual health, sexual intimacy, going through traumas, how you relate to, because sex is not just a physical act. There's more to it, right? So just a quick refresher. Can you define for us what intimacy and sexual intimacy means to you?
All right, whatever time that you are watching this. So before we even get started, I know we started late. I just want to take some time for us to get grounded in this space and get grounded and get connected with the people in the chat, and then for us to get grounded as one. So let's just take some time to just breathe for a couple of seconds. I'll guide us through it. And just get connected. If you're driving, please, keep driving. Don't close your eyes. So you can have your eyes open or closed and just notice and just begin to notice and bring awareness to your feet, to your legs, to your butt. If you're being supported behind the chair, just know it's a support on your back. And just, just breathe. Chingo, I don't know how to say breathe in short, but just breathe. Chingo, there we go. Chingo fema. And just exhale the day. Exhale all that has happened before this session. All that's going to happen after. Just be in this moment. Be engaged in this conversation that we're going to have. And just notice what is present for you. And just take a couple of breaths right here. Don't change them. Just breathe. That's it. And just bring awareness to your butt, your legs, your feet. One last time. Inhale in. And then exhale out loud. Okay. And just shake it off a little bit. Shake it off, take the day off. Okay, so how
I need to do that every day.
I'm telling you, this is how we need to begin.
So this is how I begin each and every session with my clients, something a little bit like this, but longer. So I help them to connect with myself, connect them to the space, and then for us to connect that way. They're not speaking from here. That they're speaking from here, because a lot of times we speak from here, and I have to slow down my clients. I have to slow down myself. True. We are in this moment and in this space.
Very true.
So thank you for the invitation, and thank you for participating. How was it for you? For each of you, how was that for you? And there's no lying. Like, so if you didn't notice anything, you didn't feel anything, please be honest. You're not trying to please me or any of that. Just be honest with how it was for you.
It's good because, as you can see, we were late. I just came from work. I had to rush home. There was traffic. It took me an hour to get home. So I needed that so I can kind of relax. Otherwise, I would be all over the place.
Oh, yeah. Very relaxing.
Thank you.
Now I'm focused. Honestly, my mind was kind of all over the place. So that I definitely needed that.
Yeah. So this is something like, I think somebody has said with you, I can do this every day. Please do this every day. Do a sacred pause at any time you can even do it during meetings. That's why I was like, you can have your eyes open. You can do this with your eyes open or eyes closed at any point during the day, during sex. This is something you can do before sex. This is something you can do during sex. This is something you can do after sex. Okay, I see puzzling minds and faces. Talk to me.
I see it happening, but I don't know if the person is gonna receive the meditation.
Doctor?
Sorry, I was trying to imagine that.
Chadi said, "Explain again, please."
Explain what? Explain what? Which part?
I think what she needs is explain how during sex, how I get before everything, maybe after, but during, how?
Okay, so I'll start even before. So this will be a conversation that you will have with your partner. Like, hey, I want to try something new. I want to be able to connect with you and for us to be one. Because a lot of times we rush through sex. We go step 1, step 2. We do the touching. We do the effing.
Mm-hmm.
And so before you even do that, you start to connect. You become intimate. And so you say, Naisha, so today I really want to connect with you before sex. Let's meditate. Let's look into each other's eyes. A lot of times it's going to feel weird because we don't just look into each other's eyes. We don't gaze into the eyes of my lover, of our lovers. So you do that and you breathe. If you notice you're anxious, by the time if you spend like 5 minutes and you put your hand on their heart and vice versa, they're doing like that to you too, your breath will start to sync together. So you do for 5 minutes during the sex. So depending on what position, obviously, because if somebody's from the back, it's going to be a little difficult to sync. But if you're doing missionary or any other position where you're gazing or you're straddling them, you can look into their eyes and they can look into your eyes and you can sync. So these are things you would have had a conversation about. It's okay, we're going to look into each other's eyes. Now we're going to sync, and then you're going to ride, or they're going to be penetrating you, and you're going to be breathing together. The breath will start to sync, and it will be a form of meditation in that. And once again, you adjust with your partner in whatever position and whatever is going on, and notice it. And so even energetically, you can connect with them and start to send them.
Okay, I see it now. Okay. See, now that you've explained it, I see that. I see it.
Do you see how needed that is? Because we all found meditation during intimate moments to be a little strange, because it's like, how do we go about it? But look how we just learned something.
Mm-hmm. And I think just the part of having a conversation about it, because some of these men, some, I said some, not all of them. Some of them might not receive. Some of them might think, what's wrong with you? It's a joke or whatever. So I think it just depends on how well your man receives.
And and like I said before, these are conversations that you're having outside of bedroom. So you're already building intimacy outside of the bedroom. You're already building connection outside. And so you're already doing these things outside and then bringing them into the bedroom. And that's what I really like about my practice and how I do things, because the skills and the tools that I teach are not just for the bedroom. They're really like a way of life. This is what you're already doing. You're already moving in a meditative state when you're taking a shower. When we're talking about the lotion thing, like what you do, doctor, like that's a part of the meditation. And so you're bringing what you're already doing into the bedroom. That way it's not feeling so foreign. And also it does help to have a partner that's open-minded, that's open to communication, that's secure enough in their sensuality and sexuality to know that receiving feedback is not a critique of your humanness or a critique of you. For people with penises, like, it's demeaning your performance. It's mostly a way of connecting and moving through and having pleasurable and enjoyable sex, because then sometimes people end up in celibate relationships or celibate marriages unintentionally.
Right.
So this is just one way of connecting with your partner, connecting with yourself and your partner in a meditative way, because sex can be very spiritual and it can be healing. So the question to ask yourself is my sex healing or is my sex causing harm?
Mm-hmm. So how can you start that conversation? Let's, on a more general level. I won't say, for a difficult person or, someone who's not open, but just a general, how can I start the conversation with my partner?
About what? Introducing?
About let's try this meditation thing before, during, after, like, just maybe it's something I'm already doing, and how do I bring them into that as well? How do I get them interested or excited to try something like that?
So what I usually ask people is, well, when you were dating your partner or partners, did y'all have the sex conversation? Did y'all have the interest conversation? Did y'all have the values conversation? Did y'all have, the sexual compatibility conversations? A lot of times people don't have those conversations. There's just an assumption of like, well, you do this, I do that. I perform like this, I perform like that. I say this, I say that. And so then later on, people are like tap dancing about certain things of like, well, how do I bring this into my partner? Or the partner's like, cheat or just like people are like shocked that the woman is now asking for all these things. But what happened a lot of times is we weren't honest. Unintentionally, we were not honest about our desires because one, we really don't know truly what our desires are. We never really explored, or we were too scared to share because of the person.
Right.
So what I would suggest to start you off is for you to get clear on what it is that you really want to. You can hire somebody. You can hire me. You can hire somebody else to help you to start to know what are your values. How do you want to feel during sex? How do you want to experience this type of sex that you're having? What type of sex do you want to have? And then you can go on a sex date with your partner is what I will call it. Say, babe, let's go on a sex date, and we're gonna just talk about things, all things sexual and about sex positions. Who taught you about sex? I think I mentioned that last time, like asking them questions about like who taught you about sex? Like what was your history with sex? What did you learn about sex? How did you learn about sex? So you can just start with those basics of just having a conversation about sex. Well, what do you like? Well, so I was following this girl on Instagram and she told me about this and I wanted to know what you thought about it. Like, let me show you the video and just kind of let me know what you thought about it. Oh, there's this class going on that I'm interested in. I wanted to know if you wanted to come. So just starting having those conversations with the sex date would be a suggestion for me. Just going on a sex date or a couple of sex dates. You don't have to have sex, but you're just having a conversation about it. And it may lead to some sex.
Oh, goodness. Someone says, how do you start a conversation about your kinks and fetishes to your partner? Africans are too judgmental. Yeah.
Well, at this point, you have to own your own kinks and fetishes. And then also, are you judging yourself about your own kinks and fetishes? Like, what judgments are you holding about your own, kinks and fetishes? Because then that also can impede in how we communicate and what we share, because we have our own judgments about what we like and what we may want to explore.
Very true. These days, especially these days, like, I feel like not maybe these days, people are just more open now.
Yeah.
But people have always had certain desires.
They have.
Right? So in desiring, besides taking a class, even just having that conversation, how do you, my question is getting lost somewhere. It's getting lost, but it just makes it difficult. I feel like when it comes to culture, right? Even us talking about this right now. Oh, my mama don't look at it. I hope my mom.
Oh, really?
Because we learned about sex in books.
Yeah.
Right? Or in conversation with other people.
With friends and
because
whatnot.
Because it was kind of like, it's like taboo. Like, you shouldn't even know about sex. You're not going to be having sex. So it doesn't matter You don't need
You
to
don't
know.
need to know anything, right?
Right.
Until you
So,
get to your kitchen party.
right.
Yes.
And then Ted starts giving you all this information. You
All
had
in
no
one day.
clue about it.
Yeah.
And then you
And they
find
give
that,
you generic information, right?
right, it's not
One
true.
size fits all.
Right. Exactly. It's not even what Teta's doing in her household, but she's
Exactly.
giving you a playbook that she doesn't use at home.
Exactly.
So it's like
Exactly.
having this, it's unfortunate. Someone messaged me and they were like, I don't want to admit this publicly. I wanted to even comment, but I couldn't because we just don't do that. But I needed to hear that it's okay for me to be sexually free. It's okay
Exactly.
for me to have desires. And it's not just about pleasing my man, that I also need to be pleased.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
T. Choto says men get zero info, no kitchen party.
Oh,
That's
they
the
don't have a man kitchen party.
oh my goodness.
I don't know.
Did they
I
have
guess
a circle
that's the
talk?
thing, right? It goes to the point that we're talking about, that kitchen parties, women are the ones that are taught to please, to pleasure men, and not like you don't have to enjoy it. So that's probably why men don't have kitchen parties. You know what I'm saying? Yes, and bachelor parties are not for education. Absolutely not. But
Wait,
the
there is
women
an
here,
education. It's just a
well,
different.
it's just a different kind of education.
Mhm.
But I mean, that's what women are conditioned to do, right? To please their man. So they're not going to have sessions for men where they're teaching you how to please us,
A
because,
woman.
according to society, we don't matter.
Right.
Mm.
Right. So I guess in the question about how do I even start to engage in these conversations because of what I grew up in and the tabooness of it, like to the point of like kunyata to even comments because of like the judgment. That's when the inner work comes into, like the personal work and dealing with the guilt and the shame that you're still caring about your own sexuality and your own sensuality, and some of the voices that you're still carrying that are playing
Right.
consciously, subconsciously, and are even still directing how you're showing up sensually. Because I experienced that. So it's not, what you're seeing now is a process of a person who had to uncover and dig and be uncomfortable and have those conversations and really move through the sexual shame and guilt and get to some of the roots of some of the things that were showing up. Because I was surprised, like, oh, I didn't even know that bothered me, or I didn't even know that what happened to me then is something that I'm still carrying at at 36 or at 30, and so I had to do the work. So some of this is going to have to do with you going and doing the work with a professional therapist, a child therapist, a sex therapist, a somatic sex therapist, especially for my tema. Because we carry the stress and the traumas in our bodies. And so cognitively, while you're 36, but emotionally and psychologically, you might be in your 20s. You might be in your teens, just to that little girl, that little boy, and you're acting out and being immature, but you don't even know it. And so part of assisting with the budding and the unflowering is to do the work psychologically and also in the body, working with a somatic therapist to really start to uncover and release some of that shame and guilt. And slowly but surely, you start to hold Buddha and you start to have those conversations with a trusted professional. They'll guide you. Start to practice with people that are safe, your friends, your partner. And if it's hard for you to have a conversation with your partner, then I'll also be like, well, what kind of people are you choosing? Like, if you're able to have sex with somebody and be sexual, but then so now is hard.
Right.
Like, what's going on here? Like, how are you vetting the people that you're having sex with? Because if you're opening up your legs, then you should be able to open up your mouth. Now, I understand that's hard. But if you can open up the legs,
It should both be hard.
You know what?
Both things should not be, they should be
that
hard.
easy to
it
do,
should just
right?
be so easy to do one, but can't do the other.
Yeah, so a lot of time, it's so many things to take into consideration, depending on where you are on the journey of your own life, how you're prioritizing other things in your life, how you're prioritizing pleasure, how you're prioritizing kutaura and speaking up in other areas of your life. Because if you tell me about your sex life and your orgasm, I can tell you about some of your areas of your own life.
Someone asked, what's the best advice you would give to couples that spend long periods of time apart? How do they keep the fire going?
Oh, well, it depends. Once again, there's no cookie cutter method, but generally speaking, it's always, well, what do you like? What do y'all like? What entices you? What gets you going? Are you auditory? Are you sensory? Do you like to watch or do you like to listen? Are you doing FaceTime? I don't know, Zoom calling? Are y'all doing some phone sex? Are y'all doing some sexting? Playing around and seeing what gets you turned on with your partner. Erotic poetry, erotic books. There are some audio erotic books. There are also apps where you can ask each other questions and get to know each other. So it's so many things just depending on what your interests are and what is the goal. Like, what is it that you're trying, what's the intention? So I'm very an intentional person. Not all the time. There's times where, you just want to get freaky. And that's fine. You can do a conscious quickie. I'm all for that. Please. It doesn't have to be long, drawn out all the time.
Right.
But it's about the intention. Like, what is the intention? Is this for connection? Is this for fun? You can role play. You can do so many things with your partner if they're long distance, because imagination, we still have our imagination. Even though we're grown up kids, you can still use your imagination with your bae and build up that anticipation till the next time that you see them. Do some of those things. They can dance for you. You can dance for them. You can tease them. You can do a burlesque show. I mean, I can go on, but I'm not.
Inquiring minds want to know if you take insurance.
I do. If you're in North Carolina, I do take insurance. Most of the insurances, if you're not in North Carolina, it's self-pay. It'll be considered coaching. So I only accept therapy clients for North Carolina because I'm only licensed in North Carolina. But for coaching, I'm international and it's self-pay.
Okay.
Hit me up.
Just throw your website.
Yes. Well, I can put it in the chat.
Yes.
www.rdusexology.com.
And then I'll pin it.
Okay.
Definitely contact her.
With everything that was said, how are y'all feeling? What's showing up in your own body? What landed?
Ooh.
What
landed?
What landed? What was like, ooh, and what was like, ooh?
I think for me, it was the meditating before, during, and after. I'm like, I might like that. It might enhance the experience, right? I mean, just imagining it would enhance the experience, and I guess bring me closer to my partner. So that one was the one that landed for me.
I feel like as I grow as an individual, as a woman, just as a human being, finding more of my voice instead of now you can have that conversation where you're both in that space where you're like, well, we don't want it to end. So I feel like just even the meditation, like I want to try everything. Like I don't want to be limited. I want to live to the fullest of my potential sexually, because you only get one life and we need to figure everything out.
Or you can't spend the rest of your life saying, oh, just finish, right?
Okay. Girl. Go pay Zayo. Oh my gosh.
What's crazy is there are people that are 30, 40, 50 years old that are still at that stage, never had an orgasm, don't really know what pleasure is. And for them, it's like a chore, right? It's a duty. Oh, yeah, I'm supposed to give my man sex, or, what I'm saying. So there are a lot of women that are out there that just,
they don't know. And I don't
they
fault
don't
them,
know.
because I used to think the same thing. Like, all of these things, I was there, the pleasure is for the man, because that's what I was programmed. That's what I was groomed. That's what I saw. And so it was mostly like, this is something that gets done to me for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And, kana shida, drongo mpa was aruda. Because that's
Right.
I know that's somewhere else. It's
Right.
like, that's what she goes
Yeah.
on. Chingo pizza, you want pizza, and that pizza. I mean, I never lied about orgasm, but sometimes people, they do that for those various reasons. But now that I have the information, I'm like bringing it to people, because you don't know what you don't know.
Right. That's very true. We have a follow-up question.
Oh.
He says, and then say between the two of you, y'all polar in terms of comfort space, like one's visual and one's more touch. How do you find balance? This is a follow-up to the long distance relationship and keeping things spicy.
Then you can just alternate between giving and receiving. One time somebody was going to be the giver, and then one time somebody's going to be the receiver. That way it's clear, because sometimes we get that mixed up in who's giving, who's receiving. And then the energies be doing all this. So being clear, like, hey, I'm going to call you today, and it's going to be all about visual. And for the person who likes that, like, this is for you to enjoy. And then that person can give feedback. Like, do this and do that and do this, because that's another thing. People don't like feedback. I know there was a point in time where I didn't like feedback. Like, why you telling people, like, do it if I do it and do going. But the person may not be enjoying.
No.
And so speaking of, so there are different games that I play with people to help them practice communication and being able to tell somebody what they're like. Like, if somebody's doing the visuals, like telling them, okay, I want you to do this and then do that, and then so that I can enjoy what the hell you're doing. So you can take turns in that with some people who have the different whatevers, and take turns and just notice. So a lot of these things you have to try. Try and figure out, see what works, and make adjustments, because not everything is going to fit for all people, depending on all flavors. So you have to just try them and then adjust them. Try, adjust, expand, try, adjust, expand, and be open-minded and be honest in the conversations. If you ain't like it, you ain't like it. If it was okay, well, how can we make it better? How can we make it even more delicious? That's, once again, it goes back to you knowing your own body and what is good and what is delicious, and also knowing that things do change, so you won't stay there. Well, I need to maybe rainbow fried that. Well, I'm Chinese. I don't like that anymore. So things have shifted. So being able to adjust. Sometimes we get stuck in one ways, but as far as like how I look at sex and sexuality through a tantra philosophy and a way of being, it's like things change. Our bodies change, our minds change, stressors change in life. You get on my nerves today, and tomorrow I'm in love with you. Like, all of those things come into play into our sexual lives, and to keep that in mind as well. So just try out part 2 and see what happens, and keep trying and showing up and communicating.
And one thing that might discourage men sometimes, because as people do get older, things happen to the body that you're not expecting, like ED. Sometimes you might need a little extra help, and that's okay. Sometimes you can't help genetics, or if you're a heavy drinker or you do certain things, sometimes you just need a little bit of help, and people have to get to a point where they're comfortable within themselves to just say, you know what, it's not happening, and I feel like I need to take certain measures in order to be able to satisfy you. Or you might have to come to the point where you have nothing wrong with you, and you're just incapable of satisfying that individual.
Well, I have a question about when you say satisfying, and I'll be like, well, what do you mean by satisfying?
Well, maybe in a sense of you're not climaxing.
Who's not climaxing?
The one being serviced.
Then I started to have further questions. I've been having questions for the questions.
I'm sorry. Your partner.
Okay. So
you're in a relationship, you're not getting satisfied.
You're not getting
one is satisfied, the other is not.
Because when you say satisfied, that can mean a lot of things. So are we talking about orgasm? Like one is not getting the orgasm?
Right.
The woman is not getting the orgasm? The person with the vulva?
Yes.
Okay. So you're talking in code. So I'm like, listen,
Listen, I'm trying to
keep it PG when it's not really a PG conversation.
We can't do that anymore. I mean, I'm not saying be vulgar, but just say what it is, because a lot of times people come to me and they say these generalizations, and I'm like, I have to dig a little bit deeper to get to what the actual ask is. But once I know what the ask is, then we can have some room. So with orgasm, then my question would be, which I asked the last time, do you consider it a pleasurable sexual experience if you don't orgasm? Like, how important is the orgasm during sex for you?
Oh, are you asking for me personally?
I thought it was rhetorical.
Either it could be rhetorical.
I was answering it in my head.
Y'all can answer. It's up to y'all. But that would be the question that I would ask. I would want to know more about the orgasm, what it means for you. Are you able to have the orgasm outside? If the penis owner is having ED concerns, that's another thing that we'll talk about, because a lot of times our sex has been only linked to penetration, PIV, penis and vagina. And so it's almost this territory thing where that's the only way. And so, yes, you start to experience certain things. It can definitely deflate your ego and deflate a sense of self, because you've only been able to do this with your penis or with your apparatus that you're using. And so for my work, we then expand sex and sexuality. That way you're not only looking at it from one lens, expanding pleasure. They're touchless orgasms. They're full body orgasm, because there's a difference between ejaculating and orgasm. Most men ejaculate, but they don't orgasm. And sometimes you can, as a man, you can orgasm, but not ejaculate. So ejaculation is when the sperm comes out. That's the ejaculation. That's not an orgasm. And so being able to know your own body is key, and knowing the anatomy and knowing what's going on and expanding your definition of sex is definitely helpful in a lot of cases, because we just, like what you were saying earlier, Tino, you only got one life, and baby, exploring and spending time. So some of these things are going to take time, y'all. Like, it's just not going to be overnight. It's going to take time and practice with the self first, and then with the lovers, your partner, your husbands, your boyfriends, your girlfriends, whomever you're loving in your bedroom.
That is very true.
So I want to go back to, it keeps ringing in my head. So last time when we talked about sensuality, right? I feel like we talked about it, but would you say sensuality applies to men as well, or is it just a female thing?
It definitely applies to Larume, because they have 5 senses as well. They can smell, they can touch, they can feel. So it's not a feminine thing, it's a human thing, because we all have senses. I mean, especially Larume with Zimbabwe, Africa, when they're winding their waist, Jamaica, my island, when they're winding their waist, I mean, that is sensual for me. That is sensual energy. It's an energy. It's not a genital part. It's not your genital.
Right.
Energy, a way of being. So yes, thank you for bringing that up. It definitely does apply to Larume, and they don't even realize that tapping into that, especially in the bedroom or just in life, it does something to your woman, or if you're loving a person with a vulva. And I keep saying that because, well, anyways, your woman and the person with the vulva, and also knowing what's the difference between a vagina and a vulva. So the man also being able to know the difference, because if you out here having sex with women, you don't know what a vulva is, come talk to me, come see me. But once again, we're not educated. Like, a sex ed doesn't really do us justice. So the vagina is what goes inside. That's where the baby comes out. And then the vulva is what holds the structures, where your pubic mound is, where you see the hairs and the lips. That's what's called the vulva. And so, yes, Varume, y'all are sensual beings as well. And it'll be helpful to you and your person or persons to tap into that. Look at some Babarade videos and, it's wine that ways too.
Okay, so is that the advice for men to tap into their sensuality, wind your waist, or, what else can they do?
Yeah, so wind your waist, baby. Don't be shy, because all of us store our traumas in the groin and the hip area. Men have hips too. They might be not as wide. They might be just narrow for some of them. Some do have larger hips.
Some of them.
Yeah, some of them do have larger hips, and that's fine. But you're still storing it. You're still a human being at the end of the day. You're not immune to trauma. You're not immune to the harm, the wounds that people face in life. You're not immune to abuse. Some men have been sexually abused and assaulted as kids, as little boys, or as grown folks. So you're not immune. You're still a human being. You can journal as well. You can do yoga. You can play with your own senses. So, y'all know I love sex toys. So I have this Waterberg wheel, and it has different sensations. And so you can play with that. And once again, you don't have to buy this, but you can find something else in your own home and just notice what are the senses. If you like to drink tea, or if you like to drink beer, just pause and just start to notice, how does that beer, how does it smell? And then you put it in your mouth. How does it taste? Okay, if you're putting on lotion, put on the lotion in a very slow, deliberate way. If you're touching your penis, really touch your penis in a very deliberate way. And so I can actually show you, because a lot of times we just go through things very quickly. So this is your penis, right? And so instead of just like rushing, really take your time, be mindful, and really go slow. Just notice, how do you connect with your own penis? How do you connect with your testes? Which not so it's really slow, pretty slow. What do you got? There's no destination. You're not trying to ejaculate. You're just simply getting to know your own penis. You can even name him. Touching the head. If you're not circumcised, moving the foreskin and just touching the sensitive part and go really slow. So yeah, be sensual with your own penis. That was a great question. Thanks for asking that.
I feel like once certain men get in touch, connect to their sensual side, they're going to be a little bit more gentler. Like, you don't have to be a thug in the bedroom.
Right.
Because there's moments, you know what? Hold on, let me clarify. There are moments where you want a Rough Rider, but not every day, I don't know if that makes sense.
Not every instance you're in the bedroom, do you want it to be rough?
Yeah.
Right. Unless, like you said, unless if that, if y'all into some kinky shit and whatever, then that's fine.
Right.
But it's like, hey, we're about to engage in some Rough Riding.
Right. Romance a person,
That's the mood that I'm in. I'm in the Rough Rider mood. But today I want a little slow, a little sensual. Like, I want to feel the pleasures. I don't want to just be pounded in order to feel. Because sometimes we only think that we only feel when we're being pounded on.
You want to connect. You want to look into each other's eyes and into the depths of each other's souls. What have you,
Yes, please look at me in my eyes. Let me look at you. Because some people, I used to close my eyes a lot. I'm like, but now I'm like, yes, let me look. But I'm not good. What is it called? What's that word?
Yes, that Chocolate.
You got your bedroom eyes on.
There we go. I got my pressure eyes, you know.
This is assuming the lights are on, right? So some people like the lights on, some people like the lights off.
You think Beaullah is having sex with the lights off?
Absolutely not.
No.
What did you say?
She said that's assuming if the lights are on or off. And I'm like, you're not having sex with lights off.
She's not?
She's talking about you.
Oh, me. I mean, it depends on what time of the day it is.
You know what? That does play a factor. Do you know what I've discovered? I bought these mood lights.
Ooh.
So you have it just different
lighting. The mood.
Yeah.
I want some mood lights.
Right?
I'm gonna look for the link and I'll send it to you.
Yeah. Oh, I dare. Yes. Oh, it sounds like a boom boom room. Like you turn it into a boom.
Wait a minute. But before you go, okay. You said cuddling. I want to know your thoughts.
Okay.
I want to know, what is it? Because it's vital. Right after, maybe not so much because it might be hot or something like that. But you know how people are when it comes to, what are your thoughts about cuddling?
Oh, okay. So I have so many thoughts about cuddling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I have this thing about platonic cuddling. So we start off, well, first of all, we'll just start off with touch. And then I'll lead into my thoughts about cuddling.
Uh-huh.
There is this thing called touch starvation, which is that we don't get touched enough. Most of us don't get touched enough. We don't receive enough touch, self-touch, or touch from others. Even with people like in my relationships, don't even get touched. If they are getting touched, it's either to have sex or some indication of sex, or somebody's thinking they're about to have sex, but it's not that loving, kind touch. Growing up as children, some of us weren't really touched, or when we were touched, it was through abuse, it was through sexual assault, or we were being reprimanded, gurowa. And so we have very strange associations and wounds regarding touch, especially when watema, especially sometimes wakazi, because at times our boundaries have been crossed by touch. And so it's something that we crave. It's also something that we're like, and skuda, or we have some type of aversion. And so there needs to be some healing around touch. Once again, conversations with your partner about touch. What are their thoughts on touch? How are they touched? How do they like to experience touch? How do you like to experience touch? And this platonic cuddling thing. So a lot of times people exchange intimacy for sex. What they really want is the intimacy, it's the cuddling, it's the touch. They don't want to fuck, you know, like they just really want to cuddle and just feel the touch. Because when you cuddle, it does so much for your psyche, emotionally and psychologically. It's very healing. And so you can cuddle before sex, and you can definitely cuddle after sex. So know what your aftercare is after sex. Like, what is the aftercare? Is it cuddling for you? Is it getting water? Is it getting the towel? Is it having pillow talk? So knowing what are my after sex practices or something that you would try to figure out. You can also, if you're not in a relationship, because not everybody's in a relationship, some people are solo or single or abstaining from sex, you can explore the platonic cuddling, which is cuddling with your friends. Being able to cuddle and offer the touch. But once again, you got to start at the beginning, knowing what your history is with touch, what your thoughts are regarding cuddling, and reframe it. So I've had to do a lot of reframing around certain things and certain concepts and certain ideologies that I believed. And now I have expanded them. So I'm able to ask. I'm still in practice. You know, there's certain times where I fuck up myself, where I'm like, I resort back to old ways because I'm still a human being. I'm still growing. Your automatic brain and your automatic responses still show up. Your central nervous system can still go into fight or flight. So all that to say is, I am team cuddling with your friends, with your man, with your mans, with your lover, with your lovers. Everybody, let's get on the bed. Let's cuddle. But before we do all that, let's have a conversation.
Right. Right. I like that. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about cuddling with my friends, though.
I have some questions for you.
Yes.
Yeah, honestly, if you've met some of my friends,
Yeah.
if
You wouldn't want to cuddle with them either.
it's not even the that's not even the problem. It's
There's
the
nothing
fact
wrong with
that
them. Right.
if you touch them,
That's, yeah.
it's gonna
You
happen.
can't cuddle. You
You
cannot
cannot
have that
cuddle with those people.
close contact. It will be too much for them.
So
For the girls, yes. The guys, it's ooh,
yeah.
it's
And
a no.
I hear that all the time, and that was definitely something that I used to think too. And whenever I ask men, that is something that comes up. But once again, it's usually, not always, because of what we've been taught and what we associate certain touch with.
Right.
Sexuality, and not necessarily sensuality or a form of intimacy. So all of that is absolutely valid. And that's where the conversations come in and the honesty comes in. And, you know, people can change their minds and people can expand or they cannot. And then that's when you make the decision like, well, maybe not you then. Like, maybe it's not something that I can explore with you. But that's something that I definitely, there are certain things that I also do, you know, that I'm going to talk about it on this slide. It's not about that. But there are certain things that I assist people to move through energetically when it comes to like arousal, like how to deal with arousal. You don't have to have sex if you're aroused.
Tell us a little bit.
Well, yeah, so you don't have to have sex if you're aroused, because a lot of times people think if you get aroused, you have to have sex, or there are only certain times you can get aroused. So sometimes you can get aroused at a grocery store. There are certain biological things that are happening to us and in us where, for example, in your head you may want to have sex, but biologically you're not horny, you're not getting wet. It's just the coordinates is not matching. And then there are times when your body is horny, but your brain ain't there. And so, once again, understanding it's called coordinates, non-concordance. And so understanding some of those things. So if you're aroused and you're cuddling with your friend, not being embarrassed, like, oh, I'm aroused, but actually welcoming that energy, like, oh, yes, let's explore that. Let's move that energy around, because sensual and sexual energy can be used to do so many things. It can be used to dance. It can be used to create. You don't always have to ejaculate. You can use it for other ways. So, yes, I'm cuddling with my homeboys and he's hard. Okay, let's play with that energy. Don't get tricked with the whole
I just pictured one of my friends. Yeah, definitely conversations will need to be had.
Absolutely.
At the end.
Yeah, conversation, psychoeducation, a willingness to be open-minded. Like I said, some of these ideas we have been ingrained in them for so long that we think it's so true, and like, oh my gosh, he's gonna die because he got blibbles. You know, like, oh, I'm horny and hard, so I gotta put my penis in you. No, you don't. There's so many other things that we can do with that, and so many other ways that we can practice intimacy. And some people are going to be open to it, and some people are not. I don't spend my time with people who are not open to it. If that ain't your jam, that's not your jam. And that's cool.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, thank you, ladies. I guess we appreciate you, Beaullah, because look at this struggle bus we're on. We have to. So thank you, everyone that has joined tonight. We lost the other live, so we're going to do this again.
Yes.
We will let you know.
Have your questions ready. I'm sure lots of you have questions. You can DM us your questions.
Yes.
If you don't want your name on the live.
Yeah, DM them, or slide in the DMs.
Right, or you can DM them directly to Beaullah, and she can respond to those on our next live. We'll have a date for you soon. It'll most likely be next year because Christmas.
Yeah. So we can start your new year off right. So start thinking,
right.
what kind of sensual and sexual being do you want?
Yes.
What do you want?
2024, we're
Huh?
dedicating to not just having physical sex, but emotional sex, mental sex, right? And then the physical, of course, we want it to be organic. We want to feel it. We want to experience it. We want to be present. Okay. All right, ladies, have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining.
Thank
Bye,
you, Beaullah.
See you in 2024.